The regulatory environment is getting much more complex, and the penalties that are being levied are getting much, much more severe.
Pulling the product out of the ground and then leaving a barren wasteland, we believe that we can do it in an environmentally friendly manner, and we can also clean everything up afterwards. And I think that's what sets us apart from everyone else.
I have family that works in oil and gas, so I love it because obviously it's given me the life that I've had, but it also provides for our economy, not only provincially but federally, and I think it's one of those things that we need to highlight it.
On this week's episode of The Buffalo, we went to the Global Energy Show in downtown Calgary. Now, of course, The Buffalo is a video series sponsored by the APP, the Alberta Prosperity Project, so I encourage you to check those out, and we'll find a little bit more about these guys out later. But in the meantime, we spoke to some individuals in the Global Energy Show to find out a little bit more about the connection between energy and Alberta.
I would never have been able to get an education were it not for the oil patch. How is I going to pay off a $40,000 student loan? And these options are being cut off, and the people like me who work in the field feel that we don't have a voice. Because when we talk about these issues here in Ottawa, the only people who have a say in these issues are not the working class, the average Canadian. It's the special interest groups. It's the university professors. It's the people who don't have a dog in this race that are influencing this public policy.
At 3.79 million barrels of crude oil a day, Alberta is one of the world contenders when it comes to production of oil. Now, unfortunately, with our leader Justin Trudeau and his devotion to net zero and carbon reduction, Alberta and the energy industry have been under attack in the pursuit of extremist environmental advocacy towards alternative sources of energy, which they would call, quote, green. But today, we went to the Global Energy Show, an event which hosts thousands upon thousands of people from around the world coming to Calgary not only to learn from each other and to advance their own efficiencies, but as well to share in a love of energy. And specifically being in Alberta, we wanted to hear from Albertans to find out how they feel about the energy industry and what it means to them, being that the ties between Alberta and oil in Canada have for a very long time been well known.
Oil's Quest. This is a book, children's book about the Canadian oil and gas industry. Kind of a bread and butter industry for this province. It's been around for generations, and it gets a really bad reputation. I think the media doesn't tell the full story. So I wrote a children's book to try to explain to the next generation about where oil comes from and how it's found underground, how it's extracted and separated and transported and made into the products we all use daily. So I'm trying to shed a positive light on the industry that's so heavily scrutinized.
We're an advocacy group that's a nonprofit, and basically we want to just show to the world that Canadian resources are responsible and clean, and really just highlight our illustrious ESG record.
What makes them clean, if I could ask?
Just the standards and safety protocols that we have, and the environmental procedures that we use, and just in all of our resources, they're very illustrious, and we have high ESG records throughout the country. And basically, we're just an advocacy group to highlight that.
And why do you love oil and gas?
Well, it's for my family. I have family that works in oil and gas, so I love it because obviously it's given me the life that I've had, but it also provides for our economy, not only provincially but federally, and I think it's one of those things that we need to highlight.
Why wouldn't you take oil from Alberta when we're in some of the leading edge? You look around and look at what these booths are, and it's all geared around making it sustainable and making it environmentally safe.
Well, maybe I could ask you, what does the oil industry mean to Alberta? I mean, it's been a staple for a very long time, and I guess especially over the last few years, you've really noticed the changes. What does it mean for Albertans?
Here's the answer to that comment is, it's a staple for Alberta, but it really means everything to Canada. I mean, as a country, we rely on our resources, and we're very fortunate to be rich in resources, but we're also very fortunate to be in an economy that believes that we can still harvest those resources and extract those resources with maintaining some of the utmost environmentally sound technology. And I think that that's what people need to be aware of, is that we're not just pulling the product out of the ground and then leaving a barren wasteland. We believe that we can do it in an environmentally friendly manner, and we can also clean everything up afterwards. And I think that's what sets us apart from everyone else.
Well, and if we don't, then somebody else will fill the gap.
For sure.
And they'll probably do it in a worse way.
Yeah, exactly, right? the product's going to be used, whether we use it and take it from somewhere that it's being done properly, or that hole is always going to be filled.
We are a First Nation organization trying to bring our workers to the workforce. We have about 900 members in our database here, and we're all across Canada here. And the reason why we're here is we're trying to meet with all the contractors to see how we can bring our workers to connect the dots to get involved in the workforce, or vice versa.
Of course, this is an energy event, and I know up north there is a lot of employment when it comes to the oil fields. Is that an area of interest for you guys?
That is a very high interest to us. As a matter of fact, we were talking to two ladies here at our AGM here about that, and we hope to start building partnerships with them in the Fort Mac area. So we hope to expand our leader pool to more exposure to the contractors in Canada. That's to let them know who we are, and we're here to participate in any line of work that they have available. So that's why we're here. We're also in partnership with the National Coalition of Chiefs, and we hope that this is the place that we can meet more contractors, so we can bring our people more into the workforce, because we got a database of 1,000 people, and every day it's climbing. So what do? We got to get out and meet and greet and connect those dots, so to speak.
As was mentioned, this video is sponsored by the APP, the Alberta Prosperity Project, which is working on creating a more prosperous and independent Alberta. And we're proud to have them on board to support the buffalo. As opposed to Trudeau's rhetoric,
we need to get off of fossil fuels as a dependency we have. We need to move beyond fossil fuels.
So Trudeau is clearly at ends with a lot of the oil industry and a lot of the Western values that the Alberta Prosperity Project would put forward. But the fact remains that these people are still pushing on. They're still fighting through Trudeau's decrees to make sure that they can not only feed their children, but provide a prosperous economy, not only to Alberta, but to Canada. And I talked to two individuals who were at the Global Energy Show who worked in the energy industry, specifically in AI, artificial intelligence, to find out what they had to say about some of the policies. I know it's a weird connection, but some of the policies that are affecting the energy industry today.
And 60% of all new personal vehicles sold in Canada will be zero emission by 2030.
We're a global database company covering the energy space, so yeah, really everything from shale to solar is sort of what we cover.
ESI is a software cloud that uses artificial intelligence to extract all of the legal obligations from documents.
Yeah, there's a lot more, regulatory policies, achieving net zero. So that's something that a lot of companies and countries need to take account of. So there's been a lot of, focus on that, as well as investment.
What drives the focus for net zero?
It's the compliance. So, for a lot of these companies, if they want to, stay relevant, you need to learn, adapt to that.
So we have a strong footing when it comes to industries or companies that are in heavily regulated industries, which is like why energy and oil and gas has a strong foothold for us. And the problem that they are having is that the information that they need to stay on the right side of compliance, i.e. you must do this inspection on this frequency in these sites, this particular piece of equipment, be it a nuclear power plant or a hydroelectric pump, these must be inspected with these type of frequencies. So all the information they need is locked up in documents.
And I guess that would be all government requirements and maybe NGOs or just governments, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So governments, and then more on if you're on the public side as a public operator, you obviously need to meet certain regulations for investments from the financial side.
The regulatory environment is getting much more complex, and the penalties that are being levied are getting much, much more severe. And this is one of the factors that also lays into environment, social, and governance reporting. ESG is another acronym that's big right now. So the environmental part of it is sort of 1/3 of what the Security Exchange Commission and investors are using to value your shares. So because of this recent change in the SEC, the environmental issues are getting quantified in a way that is impacting share price, and impacting share price is a good way to get the attention of the people who are really running the companies that are where their compensation is heavily influenced by share price itself.
Our government promised to legally bind Canada to its commitment of net zero emissions by 2050. This morning, we delivered on that promise with the tabling of Bill C-12, the Canadian Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Buffalo. And like some of these guys are saying, the policies that are being brought forward, the war against oil is clearly not over. These policies are going to be coming faster and harder than they ever have been before in pursuit of this net zero energy transition situation. And of course, this is something that runs fairly contradictory to what Alberta and the West would promote in terms of the energy industry, even though, as they say, they're not opposed to greener energy or more efficient sources of energy. But the fact remains that oil is what we have, and the rest of the world is going to be producing it. So are we going to let the Saudis, the Russians, the Chinese pump their oil out into the world? Or are we going to do it ourselves and produce it in a way that is not only clean and efficient, but a way that supports us at home here in Canada? So I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of The Buffalo. For Rebel News, I'm Sidney Fizzard. RebelNews.com is where you have to go to see the rest of the projects and the news stories that we're putting out there. I encourage you to go there, RebelNews.com. And again, our journalism is completely crowdfunded. It's brought to you by the viewers, not Justin Trudeau, like most of the mainstream media.
We may live in British Columbia, Yukon, the Northwest Territories, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Nunavut, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, or Newfoundland and Labrador. But we embrace that diversity while knowing in our hearts that we are all Canadians.